What advice would you give to young athletes, or really athletes of any age, who are dealing with burnout or identity struggles?
I would say, so there's this new academic concept that's being, I don't know if it's new, but I've just newly come upon it, that's called mental rest. So just like we need physical rest to recover from anything we do physically, we need some mental space. And what that entails is do something different that you don't do every day. So find something that you really enjoy that's not a part of the sport. And so I will ask my athletes sometimes, like, what do you do when you're not playing basketball? Or what do you do when you're not training? And they kind of look at me like, what else is there? And I want to say, well, don't you have other hobbies? And they're like, well, yeah, I like to listen to music or hang out with my friends. And I'm like, that's not a hobby, right? So they've got to find something else to do that's out of their normal routine and explore other identities beyond just being an athlete.
Yeah, I think that's really important because so many athletes, in order to succeed at really any level, but the higher the level, the more commitment and the more investment as far as time an athlete often has to commit in order to succeed at their sport. The higher you get, the more time investment.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing 2 workouts a day and you're structuring your whole day around when practice is or when the game is, and you're scheduling your classes around when practice is, and you're scheduling your meals around, and you're scheduling whether or not you can even hang out with your friends because and sort of it consumes you to a certain point, and that's where people often struggle with burnout, is because that's all they're doing. And this is also why athletes suffer so much from losing their identity or struggling with identity loss, certainly when they get injured or after retirement, because if your whole life revolves around a sport and then all of a sudden you're not an athlete anymore, that can be a very big struggle for a lot of people. So I like the suggestion that you had about mental rest, one, because that will develop some compartmentalization and some separation from the sport while you are actively participating in it, therefore reducing the burnout because you're not constantly doing the same thing. And then two, that also will help in the transition out of athletics, because at some point everybody has to retire. As the saying goes, father time is undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Although LeBron James is putting up a hell of a fight right now.
He sure is.
But developing these other aspects of our identity is very helpful, both while we're participating and then afterwards, because you have something else to fall back on once you're not an athlete anymore.
Yeah. And it just reminded me of there was a women's basketball player at Duke named Alana Beard years ago, and she played in the WNBA as well, but she made a comment in an interview once about, I love that I have friends who don't know anything about my sport because I know that they like me for who I am and not because of my sport, and that I can talk about other things, right? So it just gives her a mental break. But if you talk to most athletes, all of their friends are connected to their sport in some way, or they made a friend because they were interested in that sport. So I would say find friends that are not involved in your sport, and that's valuable in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. A lot of athletes, and it makes sense because if you spend all of your time in the weight room and practicing and, around your teammates, those are the people that you spend the most time with. So you're probably going to have similar interests and similar lifestyles. So you're going to be friends with these people. And athletes in high school and college tend to go to parties that are hosted by other athletes. And so if it's not athletes in their sport, it's probably an athlete in another sport, which you're still probably talking about athletics. So if you can find some friends that are into art or dance or hiking or whatever else, puzzles, I don't know, different hobbies that people have that are not athletics,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have a built-in mental break because you're
Yeah.
probably not going to be talking about athletics with those people,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
certainly a lot less anyways.